Another big problem that you've talked about a lot related to data quality
Hmm.
is integrating diverse perspectives in an organization when you're
Yeah.
making, it's supposed to be a data-driven organization. So you've got people like data scientists, data engineers, you've got relatively quantitative business people,
Yes.
and yet these different groups disagree on what
Yeah.
quality metrics to test for and monitor. So, how do you deal with that? And is it part of what you've called in a number of talks the infinite loop of sadness?
The infinite loop of sadness. Yes. Yes. Is it a part of the infinite loop of sadness? Yes, it is. It is very much to an extent. I think the idea of, I guess, for folks who've not heard of the infinite loop of sadness, is that the stakeholders that kind of revolve around the data of a company generally report up through different parts of the org. So you might have business users reporting up through some through finance, like sort of G&A kind of stuff, some through engineering, some through product, some through customer success, whatever. There's all these different stakeholders for data. There's a data science team somewhere that wants to do sort of cool data science stuff, wants to get to like A/B testing, experimentation, contextual bandits, machine learning problems. There's a data engineering team, which may or may not be part of the same organization. Like, could be like at Slack, for instance, like analytics reported up through product at first and then reported up through G&A, but data engineering always reported up through engineering. And so they're worried about performance. They're worried about cost. They're worried, like, especially these days, like cloud savings, all that kind of stuff. And then like you have the rest of engineering, which is like, trying to like terraform things and monitor things and observe things and keep the basic product up and running and stuff like that. And then they're like, oh yeah, there's this data warehouse thing on the side that we also kind of need to like provision some resources for and, terraform or whatever. Right. Um, and yet, like, yeah, like the artifact of having, or the result of having all these different stakeholders in these different organizations with different objectives, with different goals is kind of this mess that leads from like business people hiring data scientists say we need data engineers say we need machines. The rest of engineering says, okay, finance, we need a bunch more money to pay for all these machines. Business is confused because they've hired all these people and spent all this money and don't have any answers to their questions yet and stuff. And so these things kind of spiral out of control. Um, I don't have a great answer to this, unfortunately. I'd like to say that I do. Like, it's something to identify a problem. I guess where I've seen it work well, or the best places I've seen it work, is where data is centralized in a single organization under a single leader who has like the trust and confidence of the rest of the executive team. Um, this doesn't always happen. In fact, it hardly ever happens. And even when it does happen, it's kind of an unstable situation because once that leader leaves, it tends to be the case the whole thing kind
Yeah,
of falls apart.
and it sounds like somebody like that would be a prime poaching target because they're
Oh,
so
I mean,
rare.
100%. 100%. I mean, it was sort of the joke to me, I think, was that when I was director of data engineering at Slack, I was essentially being continually recruited to be the head of data at Lyft, the head of data at Discord, the head of data at Snowflake, like more or less continuously. And I kind of thought like we should all like get together, like all of us various heads of data who are constantly being recruited, and like we could just like collaborate more or less. We could just like set out our terms and say, like, okay, you go here and do this, and then I'll go here and do this, and we could just constantly keep switching between, like the orgs until we fixed everything. This was my fantasy. I never actually did this, but yeah. Um, I mean, but yeah, you're exactly right. If you are talented enough and skilled enough to do that job, and it's like no joke, really hard to wrangle all those different perspectives and get everyone sort of rowing in the same direction. It's not like a skill I possess, for instance. But yeah, for the folks who can, they're tremendously valuable, and I don't think it's a coincidence that you've seen all those people go on to be tremendously successful founders, investors, all those
Mhm,
kinds of things. Yeah,
mhm, mhm,
absolutely.
mhm.
Because it's super hard.